right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley, where today we will be looking back on Charlton's 2-1 home defeat to Bristol City. First of all, just wanted to apologise. We obviously weren't able to get a video out last week. You had
absolute chaos in my house.
Yeah, sickness bug in the camp at yours, wasn't it?
It's like that scene from In Between Us, when they're in the tent. It was awful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
not a good showing.
Yeah.
And as you might see, we have, I've been very busy where we record the pod, just getting it all updated and looking very nice. And we haven't quite got there with the kind of artwork behind us. But yes, so hopefully now back to normal. And yes, so that's an easy one to cover on that. Now let's look into the game itself. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I think they've been on a terrible run of form, Bristol, and I think they obviously sacked the manager and brought in Roy Hodgson, which was a bit of a blast from the past. I think a lot of people were sort of a bit surprised that he's like 78 years old and he's coming into but I think for him it's a bit of nostalgia. I think he managed there in the past. They put up.
It was his first managerial job.
So quite nice for him.
About 40-something years ago.
Yeah. But also as well, it's one of those where they've got nothing to play for now. So he's just coming to fill in a gap as before, like they get someone else in. I would have thought.
I think that's where I find it a strange appointment, because why not just keep the manager on until the end of the season, get rid of him, and I just find it all a bit strange personally. But
I don't quite know what the reasoning behind it was, but maybe they were just playing some really dire football. Like they were on a bad losing run before we.
Yeah, so I think they're in bad form, and I from a few bits that I read online as well, I think the manager had spoken out against the board a little bit as well, and I think from what I equally understand on that side is that hasn't been best received in the past, so maybe that had a bit of a bearing on it.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then that sort of sniffs of the manager trying to get himself sacked when they start doing that sort of stuff. But so I think with Roy Hodgson coming in, I thought actually that does change the dynamic a little bit and maybe gives them a boost. The new manager bounce.
Well, I still think tonight I'm going to be going to sleep, closing my eyes and seeing Roy Hodgson in his sunglasses, in his all blacked out sunglasses.
All I've seen on X since the game is like him stood in the dugout with his shades on. I quite like him, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't know. He's apart from his links to Palace, he's all right. But yeah, the game itself, I mean.
Well, we started really slow, didn't we? And it's one of those things that probably we've had way too many times this season. I thought Nathan Jones must be fed up of it, actually, because the amount of times we've sort of spent so much time sort of letting the team come onto us in that first 10-15 minutes of a game. And they should have been one up within about 5 minutes. They played a through ball through to Reece, who was just sliced us open completely.
Really poor finish. Oh, he didn't ever really look that confident.
No, but he had the whole goal, and he actually took it. He, instead of going on the side that made a lot more sense, he sort of tried to take it down the right-hand side. Obviously hit the post, but that was a massive wake-up call, and a sort of alarm bells were going off a little bit, because it's like, okay, we've been sliced open within 5 minutes of the game,
and it just felt like they were controlling it. I mean, we'll do the first half now, because it's, as I say, it just felt they had full control. You always know with Charlton quite quickly how we've kind of turned up, and for it just felt we weren't at the races. They were pinging the ball around quite nicely. Just nothing was really working very well, and it was very concerning.
Yeah.
It was very concerning how easily they were cutting us open as well, and that chance, but not too long later, obviously played through to Scott Twine in a very similar kind of fashion. Quite poor defending, I thought, from Jones. And we're 1-0 down 11 minutes in.
Yeah, not ideal. And then you then think, okay, well, we're not. We've said this all season, but we're not the sort of team once we go one down to really sort of come back quickly. We usually take a long time to sort of break teams down, so it already puts you massively on the back foot. And I do think as well, like I noticed it quite early on, that we were giving their midfield a lot of the ball in the middle, and they're the teams that have had more possession in the middle of the park and that are pinging the ball around quickly. They're the ones that we've really struggled against, and I think that's what we saw today. Was we were dominated in the middle of the park, plus defensively we were very poor, which we're not usually. We're usually pretty resolute, and when someone like Lloyd Jones is off it, you notice it massively.
And that's, I think, as soon as you see a player like that having an off day, you think, okay, it's going to be it's going to be a tough day today, because it's it's a rarity to
Yeah.
see that. Normally we're saying he was the only kind of shining light or something along those lines. I felt they were definitely pressurising us, definitely kind of creating chance, albeit not huge amounts of clear cut after the goal, but were definitely knocking at the door, and it just felt we weren't quite right on it.
They did have some good midfielders in that side though, and I didn't realise Sam Morsey, I think, he used to play for Ipswich.
Is Ipswich?
Yeah, so he's a class
I think
player.
he went away, and I think he
Did.
might have gone there in January, because I have a feeling he went abroad,
like Qatar or somewhere like
Yeah.
that, somewhere like and then he's obviously come back, but he's a good seasoned pro who's been in the league for a long time. And then you also had Max Bird, who I think is like ex-Derby as well. So they had a few quality players, and Bird was the player that played the through ball to Twine, and actually they've got some players that can cut through the lines. I didn't,
and we don't.
No, and we massively don't. And that's if one thing we need to address in this summer window coming up once we've confirmed safety, that midfield needs really looking at, because we, again, like Doherty is a prime example of a player that is probably run his course. I'll be surprised if he's still there after this summer, and if he is, I think it'll be in a more rotational sort of position.
I still think there could be a place for him as a squad player if he's still contracted.
I could see it,
but I also would understand completely if we let him.
I just feel like in games like today and throughout the season, there's been a lot of times where he is just one that I pick out. There's a few you could talk through, to be fair. He's one that we look at and we say, yes, he gives you a lot in terms of the running hard and doing the dirty work, but he's not somebody that's going to over time be creative and sort of give you what you need in the middle to really break the lines. And then on top of that, you've got players like Carey who have sort of gone off the boil a little bit, I'd say, in the last sort of few.
I think away from his goals that we've had of importance, I think there's been quite a long period now where actually in game affecting. Yes, he's had the moments, but has he, throughout a 90 minutes, affected the game enough? No, he's really ebbed and flowed in games, and predominantly at the moment, he's really kind of dropped off and just looks low on confidence.
I still feel he's like a product of like when the midfield and that element of the team isn't on it, it really affects him, because I think he feels like he has to take it upon himself to really like sort of be the one to push us forward. And sometimes he's a little bit, he makes the wrong decisions. He dribbles it a bit too much and can't really like release the ball when he needs to. So I think you'll see him thrive a lot more when we've got more players in that team who can sort of be more comfortable on the ball. I think you'll see him naturally become more dangerous. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch in the future. But as that half went on, I was not really seeing a way back into the game so much, and then it was a strange one, because where there's obviously our equaliser came from was a pretty poor refereeing decision for a throw-in, and then we sort of massively utilised it, because obviously we took the throw quickly. Clark managed to get the ball back in play fast, but the link-up play between Kelman and Dykes was lovely, to be fair.
I thought it was brilliant, and it shows signs of, all season we've said, I think, how it's felt very disjointed with our attackers, and maybe you've had a player on form, but actually how they're working in partnerships has just been quite poor. And it's little moments like that where I think we've said Dykes has been a relative revelation really for this season. I think the importance of what he's come in, and I think there's an argument to say he's one of our signings of the season, albeit maybe not even just in quality, but what the impact he's had on the team. But also with Kelman, one of the things we've said is we noticed at the beginning of the season that link-up play seemed a big part of his game as well, and it was so nice to see, because there still was a lot to do. Off the back of, yes, maybe a poor refereeing decision, there still was quite a lot to do, and it was
they worked the goal really well. And actually, what that did show is that there was a real sort of like a link between the two. They clearly were on the same wavelength, because the little cutback from Kelman to play him in was really, really clever, actually. And he didn't have much space to work with there. There was some players around him, and also the finish from Dykes. He managed to get that at his feet quite quickly, and nice little finish. That it wasn't an easy finish.
No. Well, one we've seen so often of late, and even as we went on in this game, finishing in those moments has been a big problem for us. And I think a player like Dykes, it is that seasoned professional. They're the kind of chances, and we've seen it a few times, haven't we, so far this season, where I think a lot of people said, "Oh, he's not a goal scorer. He's not a this."
It was the West Brom game, wasn't it? He was that one chance we got very clinical. But I think what Dykes has brought predominantly is just running hard, really putting himself about. But then he has also got that end product, which we've seen a little bit more recently. And I know he's on a contract till the end of the season. I think it
Mhm.
runs out. It's a short-term contract. I don't think you'll find any Charlton fan who would be disappointed if we manage to tie him up for another year, 2 years, because
No.
he's been so good since
Mm.
he's come in. And he seems to be really enjoying it as well. You can tell as well. He's like enjoying playing for us.
Well, I think the style of football and how we play as well, probably he does enjoy that. You can tell
Mm.
he enjoys a fight, a battle.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think with a slightly better, more creative team around him as well, you'll probably see him more become that role that he's been more accustomed to throughout his career, with hopefully someone like a Kelman being more of the goal scorer out of the two of them. But yeah, I look at it and I thought it was a brilliantly taken goal against the run of play. But once that goal went in, I thought we actually finished the half quite strongly.
Yeah.
It seemed to really knock and dent Bristol City's confidence. I thought all of those early signs of what we'd seen kind of went out the window. And albeit not creating huge chances, we definitely saw out that first half quite strongly, albeit it was quite disjointed with a few injuries.
Yeah.
And a quick word on it, because I don't think it was necessarily directly to us, albeit we probably had the worst side of it. But I thought that ref was absolutely so soft and weak and petty.
Yeah.
And I thought he broke up so many points of the game. He broke up just any form of momentum or this, that, the other. He was just
Yeah.
whistling up constantly, even on points where it should have been like advantage we had in the second half. And it's so painful.
Standard of refereeing
sometimes.
though in that league, I thought as when we came up from League One, it would get better.
Mm.
But I don't. A lot of the time, I don't think it has. If anything, I think you find when it gets closer to the Premier League, some of these referees are almost like a bit wanting to make a name for, like, impose themselves on the game and sort of make sure they're in charge and stuff like this. But what all that does is it just breaks up the game. It makes it so bitty and like you can't get a flow to the game. The best referees are the ones that let those sort of things go and let the game flow. But you don't find it much in the Championship. There's
a few we've had this season, but most of them are much more of that ilk, really, aren't they?
It's really frustrating, but I think that's just part and parcel of being in that league is that you're going to get those sort of referees. But yeah, no, we definitely grew into the game after the goal went in, and I think we were looking like we were probably like the team on top for a while. Obviously, half time, I would have thought Jones would have definitely been having a word with the defence because we were looking ropey in that first half.
So moving into the second half, game starts. I felt we came out. We were definitely pressing better. I thought once again Bristol City seemed to come out and they didn't quite have that same zip they had at the beginning. I thought they were being quite lethargic with the ball, and one thing that allowed us to do, and what I thought we noticeably were improved on the second half, was pressing up, especially at that beginning bit. Quite a few times we were pressing up on them, pinching the ball, and looked a little bit more dangerous, still with our creativity issues, which we're not going to solve this season. But it definitely felt like there was a game now there for the taking.
I think as well what you found was some of the Bristol backline weren't that comfortable on the ball. So I think like that high press, we put a bit more pressure on them in the second half. It did force them into a few errors, and I think we were looking like we could actually sort of impose ourselves a bit more in that second half.
We could say they're not comfortable on the ball, but one thing I do want to say, and I think it happened in the first half and second half, I think it was Borges, the centre-back. The amount... I cannot believe he ran from like centre-back into not far off the edge of our box and with no pressure.
Yeah.
And they were just highlighting of how defensively off it we were.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't even really bodies flying in. It was just like parting of the Red Sea, and he was quite an athletic. I don't think he is a centre-back because I think they've got quite a few injuries, and he was happy to push into that space and was quite athletic.
But that's where, again, it's like that sort of where we don't have that sort of... that middle of the park is our weak point, and if we're not able to sort of get them...
But it is. But normally, it's on the creativity side. Coventry and Dock normally at least can cover the space, and if they've not got the creativity, one of the things we always will say is they've generally got the hard work and they'll bust a gut, and just to allow players to be running through and just the disjointedness of that surprised me, because if bloody hell, I mean, if you haven't got that side of it,
you're in trouble.
You're really in trouble. And that's where I think we were struggling so much, because it was that just one pass, one run.
Yeah.
And we looked really all over the place. And then that was kind of people like Lloyd Jones getting really dragged out of position.
Well, also the other thing we found in the game today, which I noticed, was we were giving away quite a few fouls, and that's because we were allowing players to run through people.
Well, let's look at the second goal. Just before we got a warning sign. Twine, I think, is quite a set piece specialist.
Yeah.
We've given away a foul on the edge, which I think was all a bit sloppy, and I think it was Coventry maybe who gave it away.
Yeah.
Terrible free kick, so we got away with it. And then seconds later, Lloyd Jones, I think it was, who gave away this free kick in an arguably a more dangerous position because it was slightly to the side. It was a terrible free kick. It takes a deflection.
Yeah.
Well, Mannion, it was.
I've seen some good tweets come out about it since.
It's so bad.
I saw Bristol put one out about their Puskas Award 2026. Like, my word,
it was a calamity of just everything you would. You're not sleeping tonight when you like.
No.
You're just thinking about that so many times because take away the kind of shocker of the first bit or whatever, and then it's so calamitous when you watch it back. And one of our mates in our group chat just kind of put, "What the hell happened there?" Like it was so bad.
It was.
And the thing is, I've seen online a few people say, "Oh, it was a really nasty deflection." Yeah, okay, I can accept there was a nasty deflection in there. He got down right in front of that deflection, and all he had to do was kind of just take it in or parry it to the side. As I say, if he's not confident, and it
was pretty painful to watch.
And then like watching him like
try and claw
it back over, and
it was really
bouncing in every direction, and we have two defenders like kind of like tripping out.
Do you think, obviously, I know Mannion, since he's come back in, and obviously we've seen a little bit of a switch from him, Kaminsky got injured and he's come back in. Do you think he is the long-term answer? Do you think he's still got that sort of clanger in the locker, and maybe we should be looking at long-term? Because I don't think massively Charlton fans are truly convinced on Kaminsky either, so I don't know where we stand with our goalkeeping situation.
So I think the difficulty we went through last season with the whole Maynard Brewer, Mannion, and Mannion took it towards the end. There's a reason they were going back and forth, and that's because I think Mannion definitely has his strengths. I think he's very commanding in his box. I think he's quite a good shot stopper. Distribution, I think, has always been an issue with all of our keepers that we've had. Look, I don't think we went out to buy Kaminsky unless we were looking at Mannion as a backup, and I don't think long term we see him as the number one keeper.
Because Kaminsky's on big money, I think. He's our top
but we signed
20 grand a week.
The problem is, I don't think we ever thought we'd sign Kaminsky for him to be kind of competition to Mannion. And it seems like, as I say, that is more the case, because I think, although I don't jump on the bandwagon of how poor Kaminsky is in this, that, the other, I am extremely underwhelmed at what he's offered. And I don't now look at, I mean, Charlton I think of any club, and we've got friends who say it, we just
churn through
keepers like no tomorrow. And I'm not sure Kaminsky's the answer. I'm equally not sure Mannion.
So yeah, but this is where I'm wondering whether, like, it would be ultimately it's on Nathan Jones, isn't it? Because I do think he rates Kaminsky, but I think when Mannion came back in, I think he put in some good performances, and it made it very difficult to drop him after that. I think that's why he stayed in the team since. But do we look at an alternative in the summer, for example, or are we going to stick with Mannion or Kaminsky as a long term?
It's a really difficult one.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure.
Could I see a world where we keep hold of Kaminsky and maybe go for a slightly younger, hopefully good quality keeper? Maybe, I don't know.
We brought that boy in from Gateshead, didn't we? But again, I don't know if he's just one that will just sit in the background.
It might just be a third choice, just there as a backup, and he never plays for us, or that kind of territory.
Isn't it, really? That situation's one to watch, actually, because I don't know what the long-term sort of plan is with the goalkeeping.
I'm not 100% sure. The club probably do, because I think they had hoped that was a tick.
It does. It is one that's got a question mark over it, 100%. Yeah, that goal was really not nice to watch, and
it was terrible.
It does happen. Like you've got to, sometimes you just got to accept that goalkeepers are going to have the odd clanger, and I think that is going to happen at this level in particular as well. But hopefully he doesn't make a habit of it, because otherwise we'll start to see Kaminsky come back in, won't we? If that does happen. But.
Well, goal goes in. I felt we needed the subs on. I felt after the goal we looked a bit shell-shocked. We've seen it so many times with Charlton, where we react in a few different ways, but predominantly that is our way. We look a bit shell-shocked, take a bit of time to regroup, and I think the subs were definitely needed. I I thought it was a bit of a game changer when we saw Ibi come on, TC come on.
It changed the dynamic a bit, didn't it?
Changed the dynamic, added pace, which I think we were lacking, and that caused their defence to have to kind of drop a bit deeper in the concern of that. Gave a few other players free roam. We saw obviously Rankin Costello come on a bit later.
Godden
I'd say,
as well.
Yeah, Godden came on, and we huffed and puffed. I'm not sure with two
big chances, though.
there was definitely big chances in there. I don't feel like we pressed them to the point they were complete and utter backs against the wall. They were hitting us on the counter quite well, but there was definitely some big chances in there. We had the TC volley as one of them, and I don't think I'm going to get these in chronological order, but the TC volley, to me, sums up half the problems we have with TC.
Yeah.
It's got to be, and we've seen it more than once this season. There's got to be some composure there, and I'd rather he hits that on target.
I saw again. I replied to somebody on X earlier because they put out a tweet saying like, "Oh, this will spoon feed all the scapegoaters for TC." But there's a reason people criticise Campbell, and they are the reasons because he has such an inconsistency when it comes to those big moments in games. He'll score like the odd one where you don't expect anything from him, and he'll score from like 25 yards and smash it in the bottom corner. A lot of the time, when he gets into either a crossing situation where he should put a quality ball in and doesn't, or runs it off the pitch or something, or gets muscled off the ball, or he'll have the ones like today where it's like a pretty clear cut, should be tucking that in the back of the net and just blazes it, which is what happened today.
Yeah.
And so I don't really see that as scapegoating personally, because I think that's just that we're highlighting again why he's got his pitfalls, really.
Well, I think it's got to be a balancing act between it, but it's a bit like the crossing, for example. There was one today which I think he got in for Lyndon Dykes, which was okay, but generally speaking, I think his quality of crossing, if you have 10 crosses, probably 9 out of 10 of them are quite poor. And I thought he was more dangerous today. I think it's exciting seeing him a little bit more in that wide role with Dykes and Godden, and then you had
he was fronting up
the other side.
He was fronting up the defenders quite well today, wasn't he? But
I thought it was a decent performance from him, but once again, chance taking, and that is very important. And it was quite a poor effort.
Yeah.
We had Ibi Fuller, who kind of did some quite nice link up play.
Good shot on target.
That was a bit of a link up play with, I can't remember who it was now. And shot across goal.
Forced a good save,
pretty decent saves.
Yeah. I think Rankin Costello had a decent shot as well, which got saved quite late on in the game. But the big one was the Godden chance, to be fair. So the one where I think Jones flicked it across the box and fell to Godden, who, if he's playing regularly and sort of in good form, he's tucking that all day long. But
I think so. But look, once again, it's kind of one of those where I look at it and say, it's on us to be putting one of those away.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, let's play no. I suppose we've got to look at this sensibly. The other side, they also had some very good chances.
Armstrong came on.
Sinclair Armstrong towards the end, and it's a name I remember well because I did a Footy Man season once, and I signed him when I got Charlton promoted from the Championship. He played for me in the Prem, and he was quite good. He looked terrible.
Well, he had the one where he got in on goal because the game got really stretched. We were obviously pushing for an equaliser, and
I think at this point Mannion was like,
well, no, that was that I think the last chance he had, Mannion was sprinting back from coming up from the corner, but he had one where he was in on goal, and Ramsey made a bloody good recovering tackle, which he's so good at, to be fair. And that was the big first chance he had. The second one, he literally was 1-on-1 from the edge of the box.
Couldn't be more central.
Yeah, and he couldn't helo it into the middle of the goal.
It was bad, wasn't it?
It was very bad. So, although we're talking about other big chances we had, they also had those big chances.
They did, but the frustrating thing, I think, when I look at that is, in the game, they didn't, I know it's always, but they didn't take their chances, we didn't take our chances, but the only thing we're in control of in that moment is us taking our chances. What they miss, and there's a game still there that realistically they did miss their chances. If we could have taken just one of those, we come away with a point. I think we're quite fortunate in regards to, I'm not sure now, looking at everything around, how desperate or how much in need, albeit it's nice and we want to finish as high as possible. Every game that goes on seems to be more consolidating our kind of position and safety. But yeah, it just felt frustrating because I felt there definitely was a game there we could have taken a point. I thought Bristol City looked nervous. They were dropping deep. Yes, they were hitting on the counter, but they weren't taking their chances. And it just,
It was one of those games where we were poor defensively, so the 2 goals we gave away were soft as anything.
It
And then
felt like an end-of-season game with not much to play for.
well, yeah, I just the thing
and
was,
even though we're just on the edge of something to play for, it felt,
yeah, the thing with it was though is that like we just ultimately got punished for not taking chances and on being really soft at the back. That's literally it.
Mm.
On top of that, I think we did get dominated in the middle of the park, and that's been a problem for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to be addressed in the summer, but we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's the game. Roy sauntered off in the sunshine in his sunglasses with the 3 points. So, yeah.
Wobbly boy.
Yeah. Happy retirement. Well, let's move on to then the individual performances. I think there's a lot of kind of meh performances.
Yeah.
I thought there's some quite good performances in there. Some who I thought had good spells but weren't particularly consistent throughout the game. Let's start on the negatives. And I think one who, albeit I don't think noticeably had any kind of real shocking moments, I think is one that we can open up a bit of a discussion on as well. And that's Chambers.
So with Chambers, obviously he's come in to plug a gap. So we obviously had big problems at left and right back, and obviously Clark and Chambers both came in. Now I would argue Clark has made much more of an impact than Chambers if you're going to look at the two. Chambers at the start, I was thinking, he's come in from Liverpool. He's clearly got something about him. Like you're not.
Clearly quite technical.
Yeah,
he had at the beginning,
exactly.
he had some really good crosses in.
And he can pass, he can sort of get his head up and pass the ball quite well. What I have sort of noticed as it's gone on is he does get caught out a little bit sometimes, looks a little bit out of a fish out of water in certain circumstances. And he's not the most imposing. I wouldn't say he's like one of those players you look at and think, he's going to bomb down the wing and like sort of get past people. And
I think my biggest thing, and I think he's one I really struggle with, because I think you can't understate how important the signing of him has been.
Yeah.
Because it has replaced that whole issue of us playing ridiculous wing backs at that position. And don't get me wrong, he is a step above, like a class above anything else we had when we were playing in that position before. So his signing has been so incredibly important.
It's done what we needed it to do, I guess.
But when I look at the evolution of it, what's so concerning to me is, I think predominantly how little I could tell you about him in the last 5 or 6 games. I think I notice him being dragged out of position quite a lot, but on an attacking sense, as I say, clearly is quite technical. And with Harry Clark, I think you're almost on sometimes the opposite, which is the amount of effort and the marauding side of it. And sometimes it's probably his quality, albeit I think he's still once again got quite a good cross in him sometimes. He's probably one who lacks a little bit more on that technical level. We've seen so many chances he hasn't taken, but so many games I could tell you, Clark was doing this, Clark was doing that. I really noticed him. And with him, it's just like he's just shrunk into the background, odd mistake, not done anything offensive, not done anything good. And like, for example, I look at Clark and I think, do you know what, there's a big part of me that I don't know 100%, but a big part of me that feels, do you know, I'd actually quite happily have him as our right back next year. And with him, I don't feel that. No, I think I'm happy just to see him.
He's alone, isn't he? Yeah, he's come in to plug a hole. He's done that, and he actually, like you said, he's actually way above what we had on offer before that he came in. I think what will happen is he'll just see out the rest of the season. He'll go back to Liverpool and probably get loaned out again or sold on by Liverpool. I don't think we'll see him back at Charlton after this season ends, but he has offered us what we needed for that moment in time.
So a weirdly important signing, even though on paper I'm not saying he's been that good, but anything could have been better than what we were when we had.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget, we got Josh Edwards to come back in, who is going to be a massive boost.
That'll be like a new signing next year, in my opinion.
So
that's one I think to quickly kind of go over. It's not to really bash too much, but I think it is, as I say,
he's one that goes missing a little bit. Or not goes missing, but you don't notice him in the game massively, do you?
Well, moving on from that, someone who we normally do notice, normally is singing praises like no tomorrow, but someone who I just thought was noticeably a defender who probably made the most mistakes, was really having an off day, and it's so rare, was Lloyd Jones. And I think it's probably the one and only time, and I hope it is, this season he's going to be in that category.
Yeah, I mean, he's one that we actually get bored of saying how good he is every week, because it's just so consistent. Today was one of those games, but you're right, like it was noticeable in terms of him getting sort of caught out of position.
He's always so like confident, so assured and everything, especially when it comes in a defensive sense. And like there was just right at the beginning, I think he was he
The
pressed
two
up.
big
Well, so
ones.
the first chance where they were in 1-on-1, he pressed up and kind of tried to play a offside trap and got it so wrong. The second one, he just once again looks a bit Bambi on ice, fell over backwards.
Yeah.
The free kick for Twine, he just like ran into him. He just
Mm.
to me just looked uncharacteristic of what we are so used to, and I'm fine with that in regards to he has got more than enough in the tank
Oh yeah.
to have a performance like that.
Yeah.
But equally as well, we've said it all season, haven't we? Occasionally, as much as we're no way saying anything particularly too negative,
Mm.
I think when you do have a poor game, we still have to highlight it.
Yeah, of course. And actually, when we sing his praises, we'll do that all day long because we like I said, we do it regularly.
Mm.
But when he does have a poor game, we do have to call it out. And today was one of those games. And I just think sometimes to really to hit the levels he hits every week is very difficult.
Mm.
Like there's a reason. I think he's still in the team of the week, and we've got 6 games left.
Mm.
And he's comfortably like the most highly rated defender in that back four in the team of the week. So that just tells you where how sort of solid he is week in, week out. But today was noticeable, and like I said, he was at fault arguably for the Twine goal because he obviously was caught out. He was caught out for this Reece chance very early on, and he just looked a bit of a shadow of what we usually are used to seeing. So
I think it's just a write-off move on, isn't it?
yeah,
And
it
weirdly,
is.
I've quite enjoyed talking about him in this way because it's just a little bit different to the broken record
Well,
we're
also,
normally.
he's human, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
one thing you could argue is maybe like players around him were off it too. Like, I don't think anyone was massively.
I wonder
playing
if
out
some
their
of the
skin.
midfield, say the ease of moving.
Oh, we
through,
allowed them to.
well, it
saunter
caused
through,
it
didn't we?
caused that issue of because
Yeah.
we see so often he does this high press up against defenders, but when your midfield's so out of position and is playing equally pretty poorly,
Yeah.
maybe it did cause some problems. As I say, I'm happy to kind of just leave it there, but I think it's got to be highlighted when it is.
Yeah.
The final one, and it probably goes with no surprise here as well. One we've obviously we've gone over in pretty good detail as well, but Mannion, it wasn't one
Game to forget. Wasn't
yeah,
it?
game to forget. And I thought, do you know what we've discussed over the goal? But I actually thought, just in general, I thought he looked sometimes a bit panicky in his distribution and just lumping it straight away with not much purpose.
Yeah.
I think he even had a couple as well where he just, as I say, he had a few what I'd say pretty okay saves, but to be expected. He did have just a few little moments, and I think he had one where he was going up to kind of like punch it or whatever and just kind of missed it.
Shaky.
In the first time. It seemed like a shaky performance, and I think after the goal he seemed even more noticeably shaky, like it had just rattled him. And I just thought, once again, similar to Lloyd Jones to a certain extent, I think he's been pretty good since he's come in.
Yeah.
I've definitely sung his praises, and I feel he is without doubt number one at the moment. But performance like that, you've probably got one in the locker.
I was just about to say, do you think after that performance, is Jones going to look at maybe swapping Kaminsky back in? I don't know.
If we go off what we saw last year with Maynard Brewer, I don't think it took much more than one bad performance to bring the next one in. And then it's for Kaminsky
to lose
try to
it
come
again.
in and lose it or prove that he's going to stay. So would I be surprised? No. I think it would be a bit harsh on Man.
Yeah, I do. I think like you're right. Since he has come back in, he's been pretty solid all the way through. So to have one bad performance and one massive clanger, which obviously we talked through earlier with the free kick, I think you would be looking at it being quite harsh to drop him. But like you said, Jones does do that sort of thing, so wouldn't be the biggest shock going. But overall, I think Mannion does bring more of a confidence when it comes to claiming. I've always said, like, from when we look at how Kaminsky claims his area, I think that's one area of the pitch Mannion's much better at. He is much more sort of commanding and does pluck the ball out of the sky sometimes when you need it. His distribution isn't great, but then neither's Kaminsky's, I don't think. And then his shot stopping's decent. I think Kaminsky's a better shot stopper than Mannion personally, but I think there's elements of Mannion's game that are better. So I think there's elements of both of them.
It seems like it's gone to a bit of a flip of a coin. I'm not sure you dramatically see, and I suppose that's where you could look at it as a positive, is both are, I would say, decent championship keepers.
Yeah.
And if one is out, you've got another one. And where it can be quite a form position as a keeper, having that rotation between the two maybe is quite a positive.
They're two solid goalkeepers. Like, it's not like you're bringing in someone that's a bit of a donkey. Like, you've got two solid goalkeepers there. So, I mean, today was an example of when a goalkeeper has a clanger, it's massively noticeable. And also, that's like the game changer, really, isn't it? Because at that moment in the game where that goal went in, we saw ourselves starting to slowly sort of creep in and get a bit more of a foothold in the game. So when you concede a goal like that in that manner, it really does actually like hit you quite hard.
Yeah.
And that's what happened today. Like, it really sort of knocked the stuffing out of us a little bit. So let's hope he doesn't keep doing that. And if he does, then obviously, like we said, Kaminsky will get rotated back in, won't he? So.
Yeah. Well, let's leave the negatives there and move on to the positives then. I don't think there was any real... It was quite difficult, wasn't it, in regards to getting stand out. There wasn't many, but I think there was ones that notably left a more positive taste in mouth. And I think to start with, I think the first one, Lyndon Dykes. I mean, he is such... Do you know, it's not even just down to the goal and the build-up and the this and the that. That was all brilliant. I can see why he is so loved by the clubs that he plays for, and the effort and the work he puts in, and he leaves everything on that pitch. And to me, he is the epitome of a Nathan Jones player, but also just a fan favourite.
Yeah, I mean, he's not been in that long, has he? But we've all as Charlton fans, I think we've all sort of taken to him. And they're the reasons why. When you get a player who works hard for the team, on top of that has quality as well. And I noticed today, like, there were moments where the ball was sort of hit up the pitch and he's got a good touch. Like, he's able to get the ball down. And actually what he does do is he'll bring the ball down and then just play a nice, simple pass and get the ball back to us.
I think sometimes he plays at a level above the players around him, in our team especially. And I think it must be quite frustrating because I sometimes see those little moments and flick-ons where he puts it into a really good area. And I think that's what we've got to get a lot better of, because I think, weirdly, we're seeing a very good side of Lyndon Dykes and we look at what he's brought to the team and it's really impressive. But we're utilising probably a very small percentage of actually how good he could be for us.
Yeah, and like you said, like, if we have players around him who are like sort of a similar level to him, all of a sudden, then it maybe does open up a bit more of a door for him to actually get more chances and all that sort of stuff, or create chances. But the goal, we've gone over the goal already today, but that sort of link up play with Kelman's really encouraging because it shows that there's a sort of synergy there. But his finish, as I said, like, actually, for all the hard work he puts in, he can finish as well. So to have both those elements of his game in his locker is really encouraging, and I do hope, I would love to see him sign another extension, like a year. If we had him for in the next season, I'd be more than happy with that.
I'm not 100% sure it's out of the question towards things.
Well, he's got the World Cup, hasn't he, coming up?
It also depends what suitors, and I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems very happy, but you just never quite know, do you? Is he going to look for a move elsewhere?
I don't know wages-wise as well, whether he's on high wage, I don't know, but...
I don't think that really matters. It doesn't matter, but I think if you're looking at building, I think what he brings so essentially and what we've got to move more towards is we want to build. How many teams do we come up against who are even in poor positions or not playing well, but we say they're littered with championship players? We're not. We're littered with predominantly League One players with a few, and on their day, they can compete against championship teams, but teams out of form that come to us to say
he's one that you look at as an established championship.
And I just think it seems like a no-brainer if he's enjoying it. I think if you've got the opportunity to put him on another contract, it's a no-brainer.
It's one that you've got to look at, and I think, like I said, he's got the World Cup coming up, so hopefully he'll get into that squad, which I think he will. Like, he's one of their better strikers.
I think he got his 50th.
He did, he did. So we'll see what he does in the World Cup, and then that might dictate where he ends up going afterwards. If he has a worldie for Scotland, someone might snap him up. But I'd love to see him back at the Valley next season.
Let's see. Time will tell, won't it? Well, let's move on to, I think, the only other person we could really highlight as a noticeably positive performance, and I think really encouraging, was Ibby Fuller.
Yeah. To be fair, he's one that we've questioned whether he should have come into the side a bit earlier, like, because Campbell was arguably not having some very great games. He's one that every time he comes on just looks dangerous, and I think he adds so much to the team.
He once again did like a little roulette away from the confidence he plays with for his age is just incredible.
Yeah.
And I think where I look at it with him, and I think where I've been calling so much into players, and I understand this whole thing around development and this, that, the other. My worry when I look at players like him are if we don't start playing him at this age, he's probably not going to play much for Charlton,
No.
because I see him as actually genuinely, he could be, and it's really difficult, isn't it? Because with any development, but he could be a really special player.
Yeah, I
And
think
could
so.
definitely potentially play at a higher level. But I just look at it and think, do you know what? We've got this perfect opportunity. I want to see him given more opportunity in these final 6 games. And I really hope Nathan Jones has got one eye on that to look at, can this boy do something next season
Yeah.
with a bit more of a role? And I'm not saying we need to rely on him as our saviour, because I think that's where we've dragged down so many young players in the past. But Christ, give him a bit more of a chance and give him some freedom in these games, because
Yeah.
from what I've seen, he excites every time he gets on the pitch. He had that shot. His movement just seems, whenever he comes on, it seems like away from when we were whacking him in at left wing back. That's kind of what we're missing.
He had one as well today where like he lost the ball, but then he battled it back and in a sort of crucial part of the pitch, and then played a lovely ball out to TC, which created like another big sort of chance.
He seems to play football-wise with the maturity that's beyond his years.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
and I think that's a lot of the time that can be the sign of a really special young talent, because you've kind of already tackled that whole side of bedding into the team. I think he's one that if he were given the chance in the right way, he could bed into a championship team.
I don't think. Also, I don't think Nathan Jones is opposed to, like, if he's good enough, he will get game time. So I think you're right about next season. Is give him a few games. Hopefully, we'll be sort of safe in the next couple of games, and we can really like give him a few games to just sort of see what he's all about. And then hopefully that will mean that next season he'll get more chance in the side, because I think you're right. He is a confident player, and he's one that gives you those little moments in games where we're desperate for that creativity, that little shot, that little spin to get past the man. He brings those parts of his game to us, and they are desperately sort of areas where we are weak at the moment. So the only thing holding him back and probably holding Jones back from playing him regularly is his age. But I'm a big believer of if you have the ability, you should be given the chances.
Yeah.
And
I think you've got to have faith in essence in the management of what they're seeing day to day, and maybe they're
managing him.
Maybe they're trying to work on bits in the background, not round ability, but trying to get him actually working into the system we play or something like that. I don't know, but he's such an exciting player, kind of, and as I say, for that age to be coming on and kind of cause such a bright spark. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he was absolutely sensational today, but he did change the game when he came on, and little moments that no other player was creating.
No, and there's sparks that we notice when he comes on. I mentioned it a few videos ago. Like, I was at the Middlesbrough game earlier in the year, like around Christmas time, and we were looking pretty poor, and we brought him on, and he looked really lively, and he does that regularly when he comes on.
When he also gets the crowd going, doesn't he? Because I think every Charlton fan wants him to really succeed and do well, like we do with pretty much all our youth products, until we start shooting them down. But I think everyone, so there is that extra excitement when he gets on the ball, when he does one of the kind of roulettes or whatever. When he does something like that, it's just, as I say, it gets the crowd going, and it's just long may it continue. And as I say, hopefully
he's an exciting prospect, and I think we will see more of him next year, hopefully. But again, he was just one that we could argue he brought something different when he came on.
And I think we can argue there was some other players in there who impacted. I don't think we felt to that same level, but TC overall had a pretty impactful performance.
Yeah, it was decent.
I think exciting seeing that Ibby TC out on the wide, creating a bit of a different system was quite nice to see. Kane Ramsey, special mention, I think, for some of the bits. I don't think it was his absolute best game. I thought
recovery
it was a few moments, but
recovery
tackle and seeing some of his better sides, which I thought overall he had a pretty okay performance.
Maybe Kelman as well, you could say, linked up well with
I think
Dykes
Kelman,
today,
my only concern with Kelman, where I would hold him back from kind of really singing his praises, is I felt he linked up really well there, but latter parts of the game I thought there were some times where he just seemed a bit of a
tailed off a little bit.
Yeah, tailed off, and Dykes was kind of flicking it on into place, and his just positioning was a bit off there. So that's where I felt he just kind of dropped off a bit. But there we go. So, I say congratulations, Roy. Hope you enjoy it. But let's move on to the next game. So it's not long to turn round. Yes, we've got Easter Monday and a 3 o'clock kickoff again.
Yeah.
And we go away to the flip a coin Watford.
A weird side. Like they've won that really well. It was our first game of the season, wasn't it? That was the
Harvey
Nibs.
Nibs,
Yeah, so we've already beaten them once this season, but obviously that was first game. It's a very difficult one to gauge.
From my memory, that game was it was a bit of a weird game. Just before we scored, I think they had like a one-on-one chance, which could have they could have gone 1-0 up, and then we scored obviously with the last kick of the game.
Yeah,
Probably the best start you could ever have to the championship. So good memories of that
I
one.
don't,
But
I don't know where Watford, because I know they were sniffing around the playoffs, but I think there's a bit of a gap opened up now. So I think I'm not sure they've got enough to make the playoffs.
no, so you
now.
got 64 is Wrexham in 6th place, and Watford kind of tailed off 56 now.
Yeah,
So
you'd
the 8
argue
points
that
there,
probably
I'd say
they've lost it now. So
well, I think with Watford, what's happened is I think they started the season a bit up and down. They went for a really, really good spell.
they
And
started
then,
slow.
yeah, and
didn't
then
they? So,
dropped off a bit. And I think, well, I can guarantee this without even knowing off the top of my head, they've sacked a manager this year
yeah.
because that
They
happens.
probably had two or three,
I was going to say 2 or 3 probably, but I think they
Mm.
did actually. I'm 90% sure.
I think they brought back one of the old managers who then left again or something. Like they've
Probably.
had some weird stuff going
We
on.
always say it's a flip of a coin with them, and I think they similar to like QPR, I see in a similar vein where you don't really know what they're going to turn up and do.
I think Bristol actually weirdly sit in that a little bit.
A little bit,
They're probably a bit more consistent,
Yeah.
but Watford are a side that they've always got a few good quality players. I think Tom Ince is still there, isn't he? And they've got a few others, but they're one that I know historically as well. They've had links with like Udinese and teams like that, haven't they? So
they've got just a very odd. I think they've got a boy up top who, similar to Kvistgaarden at Norwich, was like a Scandinavian really good goal scorer. I'm not sure particularly what he's done, but Watford, I think they're always, as I say, it depends on who turns up. I feel confident going to Watford that you can 100% that's a game we could be looking at and getting a result.
Yeah.
Would I be surprised if we come away losing it? No. Would I be surprised if we come away winning it? No.
No.
It's a difficult one, but I think Watford are probably just about on the beach.
Yeah, you'd think so. I think that
8.6 games chasing a pack of playoff teams.
Yeah, I think it's too much of a stretch, especially with the teams that are sort of around them trying to go for it. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect. Will we see rotation in our lineup from what we saw today?
Well, Amari Bell, I think, came off international duty with Jamaica. I'd be surprised if we see him in as well. So I'd think we'd see rotation on that. I'd like to see. I have to admit, Rankin Costello, and I don't understand this whole argument of he's a future prospect for how we want to play. It's like, yeah, but still drop him in when we're struggling with creativity. Drop him into the slightly less creative team. It just doesn't quite make sense to me. I'd love to see Ibby Fuller starting. Not sure we will, but I'd love to see it. I think we've said that so many times. Away from that, maybe Kaminsky.
Yeah, possibly. That would be an interesting one to see.
So has Lieberman still got an injury? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure he's made the bench today.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Godden as well, maybe. I don't know. He's still looking a bit.
I want to see Godden as a sub person. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he could get the first half or 60, but
it's him rotating with Kelman maybe. But I think.
Well, I also think it's easier on him. The space is more there. We know what kind of a player he is, and if he's not quite match fit, you kind of want it once legs have gone a little bit in defenders and stuff. So
yeah. I don't really know what to expect, but obviously the win would be unbelievable for us because that would really probably cement safety. I'd say we're reaching that stage now. 6 games to go, so most teams are on 40, aren't they? 40 games played.
Well, if we're talking,
it's 8 points clear.
Yeah, so let's move on to that. So we'll bring up the league table now. I'll just bring it up on there. Realistically, if we're talking about Watford being on the beach because they're 8 points off the playoffs, I know it's slightly different, but I think you can look at it in the same way. We're now 8 points clear.
6 games.
6 games to go. You've got the team. Leicester, obviously, are the one chasing it. Portsmouth, who have got a game in hand and a point above that. Oxford, you've got to really believe they're going to turn an 8-point gap. So realistically, we're losing all our games. They're going to win 3 out of 6.
Yeah, although
I don't want to say we're safe.
They've got Wednesday.
Actually, no, I do want to say we're safe. We're safe.
Yeah.
Even though we're not mathematically, we are safe. It would take the most catastrophic
a pretty big
turn of events. And I'm not 100% sure, even if we lost every single game now, I'm not 100% sure. I think the points tally could quite easily sit at like a 46 this season.
Yeah, it could. There's
we've still got to play Sheffield Wednesday.
Preston
still got to play Preston, who are kind of not. Oh, I think they drew to Leicester today, but
I mean that's not saying much.
Leicester
are struggling. So, I think I did look at the fixtures on Monday, so we've obviously got Watford, but there's a few teams down that bottom playing each other. So you got Oxford are playing Portsmouth, I think. You've got Leicester are playing with Sheffield Wednesday, which
Mm.
you'd expect them to pick up points there. So there are some teams down the bottom that are naturally playing each other or playing Wednesday. Usually means 3 points. So there's going to be a bit of movement down there. The only squeaky thing is if we lose and then there's a few teams that creep back. Do you know what I mean? But I think we're
6 games. I think if I was looking at it with 10 games to go, I'd understand it a bit more. But I just don't see it with 6 games to go. That is such a turn. I say you're relying on so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 teams below us all turning round in that similar kind of vein. I just don't see it.
no, and I did see as well like West Brom and Blackburn have now created a bit of a gap between them and Leicester. So it's actually now it's looking like Portsmouth or Leicester, really.
I have to admit, my gut feeling at the moment is a team who I thought had probably were going to really distance themselves from it. Portsmouth, I think their form, and I know they got a draw today against Norwich,
Late,
but
though, wasn't it?
yeah, late draw, and I have to admit they seem in free fall. I think Oxford will run out of steam. I know we've had a few comments from Oxford fans, but I don't see it.
Yeah, a lot of the Oxford fans saying that they perform better against the better teams, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, you don't because you're sitting 23rd.
Well,
So I know they've picked up points against some of them, but
yeah,
I just don't. Personally, I still think Leicester would just somehow put it together, albeit I'd probably most prefer them to go down just because.
yeah, get a bigger club out of the league, I guess.
I also don't like the arrogance of what they did between financial things of Prem
Yeah.
and Championship. I think but no, I think Portsmouth and Oxford are currently, but let's wait and see. So
It's going to be an interest, and that, like I said, those fixtures on Monday are going to really shake things up a little bit. So let's hope. I mean, if we can come away from Vicarage Road with 3 points, that's it. I think we're.
100%. That's I already think we're there, but yeah, 100%. I think 3 more points and we are without doubt they're done and dusted. So, well, thank you very much for listening. As I say, really appreciate. If you do like the video, please do make sure to like and subscribe. I promise next time we have today got temporary lighting in, which is why I've got this shadow that's sitting below me. So we will be back to normal as of our video. Fingers crossed on Monday. And yeah, we will also have some artwork up here looking colourful again, screaming Charlton. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one.